The drama begins in the Chosun era, hundreds of years ago in a Korean kingdom ruled by a cruel king. A criminal named Jong has been caught and brought before him. The king sentences her to death for preparing food that spoiled the taste of my mouth. But since Jong is the head of the royal kitchen, the king gives her a final chance. "You will cook a new dish for me every day," the king orders. "No dish should be repeated. If I find your food bad, I will kill you on that day." Jeong reveals that she doesn't belong to this era. She was once a celebrated chef in the year 2025. Meanwhile, we meet Jong, a modern-day chef from 2025. She is a talented chef who recently won a popular Korean cooking show with her French dishes. Her victory has earned her a dream opportunity to become the head chef of a 3-star restaurant in France. She celebrates with drinks and calls her dad the next day to share the exciting news. Her father is thrilled and orders a book about the Chosun era for her, a period she has always loved. On the flight to France, Jong reads her new book while everyone watches a solar eclipse. A man accidentally spills coffee on the book. As Jong cleans it in the bathroom, she finds a page about a famous ancient dish. The next page is missing, but a line at the bottom reads, "If you are reading this, please come to me." Suddenly, the book begins to glow. Outside the plane, the moon and sun become one. Jong, the chef from 2025, begins to levitate. The glowing words from the book surround her and pull her inside, sending her time traveling. She falls from the sky and lands in a net used to trap animals in a forest. Confused by what happened, she loses consciousness. At the same time, the king is hunting in the very same forest. He is filled with anger as he remembers his mother's removal from the throne when he was a boy. He is ignoring a special ritual back at the palace, which has been put on hold due to his absence. The king's grandmother is worried, as hunting on the day of the ritual is considered a bad omen that could lead to the king's death. The king believes the rituals are wrong, as they remind him of the day his mother was dethroned. As he happily hunts a deer, his guard warns him that a solar eclipse is a bad sign and that the gods will get angry. The guard insists that the king will begin to see female ghosts if he doesn't return for the ritual. The king dismisses this as a rumor. Meanwhile, Jong wakes up, still trapped in the net. She tries to find a signal on her phone and screams for help. She is bewildered. "I was just in the bathroom on the flight. How did I end up in a forest?" Just then, the king spots a fox and chases it. He shoots an arrow, which flies past Jong, and another arrow comes and cuts the net's rope. She is freed and hides behind a tree, yelling, "The fox went that way! Don't shoot at me!" The king doesn't listen, so Jong comes out and shouts, Are you crazy? Why are you shooting arrows at me?" The king is shocked to see her strange clothes and aims his arrow at her, ready to kill. Jong runs to the edge of a cliff and pulls out a taser from her bag. "Who are you?" the king demands, still intent on killing her. "I am human being," Jong replies, which the king interprets as a curse. Thinking he is seeing a female ghost, he shoots an arrow that hits Jong's bag. She falls into a ditch but is not badly injured. "Have you lost your mind?" Jong yells. "Do you know who I am? I'll complain to the police. I have a lot of attorney friends who will make you rot in jail." "What are you saying?" the king asks, holding a sword to her throat. Then, an arrow from behind hits the king's shoulder. He feels the pain and falls into the water with Jong. After a while, some guards arrive, searching for the king. We also see Ji-young's hanging bag. Jong wakes up and sees the injured king. She decides to help him and tries to find a phone in his pockets to call for an ambulance, but his clothes don't have any. The king wakes up and, thinking she was trying to kill him, stabs her with his sword. He then attacks her. Jong injures his leg and snatches the sword. "Why are you acting like this? What drama are you filming?" she asks. The king is completely serious and tries to take the sword back to kill her, but Jong, with her impressive knife skills, fights him off. They struggle and Jong's knife hits the king, causing him to pass out. Jong ties him up and starts poking him with a stick. "Why do you want to kill me?" she asks. "Because you're a ghost," the king replies. "No, I'm a chef," Jong says. Meanwhile, we meet a character named Mokju, the king's mistress. Her slave tells her the king hasn't returned from the forest and it's getting dark. Mokju's rituals are also stopped. We learn that Mokju's mother used to run a brothel where she sold Mokju to a rich man for a small amount of money. In a rage, Mokju killed the man and was thrown in jail. One day, a man named Jason came to her. She thought he wanted to sleep with her, but he told her he was the king's bitter enemy and would help her escape if she did what he said. She agreed. Now, Mokju fears that Jason may have done something to the king in the forest. The king tells Jong he's thirsty. "Do you know the punishment for keeping the king thirsty?" he asks. "Look at my tattoos," he says. Jong scoffs. "Tattoos like that are on every street corner. It doesn't prove you're the king." After a while, Jong takes him to an abandoned house. "This is my place," the king says. "I rest here when I'm hunting." Jong begins to tell a historical story about a cruel king who took everything from the poor and killed them. "You're telling my story," the king says. "No, this is a very old story," Jong replies. She then ties him up and puts on some dry clothes she finds hanging on a clothesline. She hears a noise from inside and goes to investigate. A girl, Gil, attacks her, calling her a clothes thief. Jong explains she's not a thief and asks where they are. The girl replies, "This is the Chosen era." Jong thinks everyone is just in character for a play. "Will you help me find my bag?" "My phone is in it," she asks. Gil refuses because she's hungry. Jong, who is also hungry, decides to cook. She finds some eggs and other things and begins to prepare a meal. She is a chef, so she cooks very good food and brings some to the king. "What have you brought?" the king asks. "Did you put poison in it?" "No," Jong replies. "Show me by eating it first," yes, the king demands. Jong eats it, then feeds some to the king. The food is very spicy. The king starts yelling that Jong has poisoned him and that he's going to die in agony. Jong eats it again and says there's no chili. Then Gil eats some and starts shouting too. Maybe people from the past ate fewer chilies. But they are both hungry and have to eat the spicy food out of desperation. While eating, the king remembers his mother, who also used to feed him with so much love. Jong and Gil prepare to go look for the bag. Jong puts a blanket over the king and Gil says, "Your husband is so lucky. You take such good care of him." "Hey, he's not my husband," Jong says. The king isn't sleeping, he's pretending. Soon, his soldiers arrive and rescue him. The king says he has seen 2 witches and they must be killed tonight. After setting the house on fire, they leave. Meanwhile, Jong is washing her hands and asks Gil why she was alone in the forest. Gil explains that her village was destroyed and she was hiding. Jong realizes that Gil is telling a true story, and this is the same era she was reading about. Gil says, "Yes, this is it." Suddenly, Jong's temperament changes and she starts shouting, "Help, help, help!" Gil quickly covered her mouth. "Hey, these are the same brutes who capture women. You shouldn't call them," but it was too late. Jong and Gil, along with other women, were captured and thrown into a jail. Jong kept screaming, calling the soldiers kidnappers. The other women scolded her, telling her to stop before they got beaten, but Jong wouldn't listen. To silence her, they tied her mouth shut. Jong was at her wits' end. She had just won a prestigious show, and now this was happening. She also couldn't stop thinking about the king and how she had insulted him. Now he would surely not let her go. A while later, all the women were brought out. Jong asked Gil what was happening. Gil explained that they would be divided into 2 groups for different tasks. When asked her age, Jong said she was 27. When asked, Gil said she was 28, so she could be in Jong's group. This worked, even though Gil was still just a young girl. The first group, with the younger girls, was kept inside for special work, while the second group, with the older women, was sent to the kitchen to help. Meanwhile, the king's guards were at the river searching for Jong. They knew she would come here to find her bag. I want to clarify that the soldiers who captured the women were not the king's guards, they were from the governor's palace. A guard tells the king that some women have been caught and taken to the governor's palace. The king smiles, realizing that those 2 witches must have gone there, and he knows exactly where to find Jong now, in the kitchen. The women in the kitchen have no idea who they are cooking for. They just get orders and cook. A man runs in and tells them that someone special is coming today, and they all must cook excellent food. Jong asks what the special guest likes, but the man refuses to tell her. Then Eon, the governor's son, arrives and tells them to make good food, or they might lose their lives. Jong agrees, and Eon pulls her aside. He explains that the chief inspector and his father are coming. They are good friends with the cruel king and used to practice fighting with him. They are both known for being as heartless as the king himself. The chief inspector, in particular, is a horrible man who drops his own hair into the food to frame the chefs and have them killed for his amusement. He has killed many chefs this way. "You can do it, right?" Eon asks. "You're not scared?" Jong agrees to the task. If she succeeds, all the women will be released. Eon agrees to this deal. He tells the other women about the deal and they are all overjoyed. They combine their ingredients and start cooking. Eon watches them, thinking that none of them will survive and that Jong will be the first to die. Jong closes her eyes. remembering her father's words, and begins to cook. She relies on her instincts. Soon, the chief inspector and his father arrive. First, the chief inspector goes to a room where the younger girls from the first group are waiting. He will choose one to spend the night with. Then, he comes to the dining table. "What is this food?" the chief inspector says, looking at a piece of meat. "You called me here to insult me? Who is the chef? Bring them to me." The head of the kitchen quickly orders the guards to bring all the women out. Zhang is confused. How could he judge the food before even tasting it, she thinks. She steps forward and says, "First, eat the food. If it tastes bad, you can kill us." The chief inspector agrees. "But if I don't like it, I'll kill you." Zhang accepts. The chief inspector then tells the governor that he has a gift for him, and he brings the governor's daughter into the room. The governor is furious but knows he can't kill the chief inspector. The chief inspector says, "Look, I'll eat the food, but if it's not good, your daughter will become my mistress and come with me to my palace." Zhang is confident her food is the best. The chief inspector and his father both eat the food, and it is so delicious that they are speechless. They want to eat more but are too embarrassed to ask. They realize if they praise the food, they can't take the governor's daughter. So the chief inspector lies, saying the food is very bad. Zhang says, "That's a lie." The governor, enraged, shouts back, "You're lying. I've never tasted better food than this. You're just saying that to take my daughter as your mistress." He reaches for his sword, but his son, Eon, stops him. Eon, however, still orders all the women to be punished. As the guards hold Zhang down, preparing to cut her throat, she screams, "Don't kill me! I didn't do anything wrong. Our food is good." Just then, the king arrives and stops them. He walks over to Zhang. "You made this? How can I believe it's tasty? I'll taste it first." Zhang recognizes his voice and, looking back, sees it's the same man from the forest. It's him! So he was telling the truth. He is the king, she thinks. The king orders the food and, making Zhang eat it first to prove it's not poisoned, he then takes a bite himself. He is immediately sad because the food is truly incredible. He has never tasted anything like it. He finishes it and asks how she made it. Zhang explains everything. The king acknowledges that she is a truly good chef and asks her age. When Zhang replies that she is 27, the king says, "You're so old. Why aren't you married?" "I'm not from here," Zhang says, "and you wouldn't believe me if I told you where I'm from." She then leans in and whispers, "I came from the future." The king scoffs, "Don't talk nonsense." He then announces that he's taking her to his palace and that no one is to kill her. For now, Zhang's life is saved. The governor confronts the king. "Why are you saving these women? You can't do that." The king grows angry. "You're complaining so much now that it's your daughter's turn, but when my mother was being tormented, you stood there and did nothing." Meanwhile, Zhang and Gil are thrown in jail. "Tomorrow we're going to the palace, but I have to get home," Zhang says. "Where is your home?" Gil asks. Zhang tells her everything. "My way back is inside a book that's in my bag, which fell from the mountain." Outside, the king looks at the moon. The chief inspector comes to him, and they begin to fight. They were once good friends and fighting partners. "I want to take Zhang to the palace and let the rest of the women go," the king says. "And now we can stop killing women. I don't like doing all this." The chief inspector questions his motives. After Eon's promise to release all the women if Zhang's food was good, Zhang and Gil run away and go to the mountain. Eon finds the king and tells him that the 2 women he was going to take to the palace have escaped. The king smiles, knowing they would go there. On their way, Gil tells Zhang her story. She and her mother came from a distant place to find her grandfather, but her mother was killed by soldiers. Gil had been hiding in the abandoned house. Zhang tells her to come back with her to her house in the future, where she'll be free to be whatever she wants. Gil agrees. They arrive at the mountain, but the bag is nowhere to be seen. The king is already there and knew they would come. "I want my bag," Zhang says. The king orders a guard to bring the bag, but after showing it to her, he throws it back down the cliff. Enraged, Zhang curses at him. "Do you know the punishment for cursing the king?" he asks. "Just bring me my bag, and I'll do whatever you want," Zhang says as the scene cuts. The next day, both girls are tied up and brought to the kingdom. They are terrified. The chief inspector confronts the king. "Why have you brought this girl here?" he asks. "I won't just kill her. I want to torture her because she's a powerful witch." "If I had a gun, I'd blow you away right now," Zhang mutters. Meanwhile, we see Mokju teaching dance to the other women. She remembers what Jason told her when he freed her from jail. He said that the king was coming to the palace with the governor's beautiful daughter and that she had won the king's heart. He said the king would cast Mokju aside, and she would lose all her respect. He advised her to seduce the king to get him on her side so they could find a chance to kill him. Mokju's maid tells her that the king is not bringing the governor's daughter, but a woman named Jong. This is a rumor that has spread and everyone has fallen for it. As Jong and Gil pass, children begin to throw stones at them. The guards beat the children and chase them away. The king tells them to stop. "These are my maids. Don't throw stones at them," he says. This makes Jong even angrier. As they enter the palace, Mokju runs up and hugs the king. "I missed you so much, my king," she says. "Who is this girl, and why did you bring her here?" "Am I not yours?" He pulls away from Mokju. "She's not a human," the king says. "She's a witch who appeared to me because of a curse, and now she's haunting me." Mokju asks what he's going to do with her. The king grabs Jong's face and says he'll torture her to death. He promises to make her suffer. Jong is terrified. Here, I'd like to clarify a few things for anyone who might be confused about Mokju's character. Mokju's mother ran a brothel, and Mokju was forced to work there. Her mother sold her to a wealthy man, but Mokju killed him and was sent to prison. Jason, a powerful enemy of the king, freed her from jail. He made her the king's mistress and sent her to the palace so she could find an opportunity to kill the king. So Mokju doesn't love the king, she is here to kill him. Mokju starts to tell the king to go inside before winter arrives. Jong is terrified because people are staring at her strangely. The king puts a cloth on her mouth and orders his guards to take her to a special place. The king is then treated for his arrow wound, which was hidden by Mokju, confirming she might be responsible for the attack. The doctor tells the king that his bleeding was stopped just in time, or the problem could have worsened. The king remembers that Jong saved his life. Mokju asks who did it, and the king reveals it was the new girl. Mokju then asks which special place he sent Jong to, but the king doesn't tell her. We then see the special place, a very secure prison. Jong curses at the king, saying she saved his life and this is how he repays her. Gil believes the king is a good person because he gave her a bath and new clothes and now her life is saved. Mokju is furious and worried. She's found out where the special place is and is afraid of what will happen if the king starts to like Jong. She orders her maid to find out who these girls are and where they came from. Next, we see the royal kitchen, where two chefs, Bong and Suk, are giving orders to the other cooks. They are talking about the two witches who arrived today. Suddenly, Lady Kim, who oversees the royal family's food, arrives and gives them today's menu for the royal family. She then meets with the king's grandmother and tells her about the two witches. Mokju, still worried, fears she will be cast aside if the king begins to favor Jong. Just then, the chief inspector arrives. Mokju asks why he didn't bring the governor's daughter, Mio. The chief inspector says the king refused. When Mokju asks who the girl is, the chief inspector says he doesn't know and instead gives her a lot of jewelry. Mokju asks him to find the governor's family, which has been destroyed, and bring Mio to the palace as soon as possible. The chief inspector talks to his father about this and decides to teach Mokju a lesson, as he knows she is a traitor. Later that night, a masked man enters the jail, kills all the guards, and frees Jong and Gil. They escape. The news of Jong's escape reaches Mokju. Jong looks outside the palace and sees many people wearing masks performing some kind of activity. Jong looks for the man who saved her, and when she finds him and removes his mask, she is shocked to see it's the king himself. All of this was just a game for him. He loves to have such fun in his free time. Then they call the person who truly saved them, the king's man, Gong Gil. He is very tall and handsome, and Gil instantly falls in love with him, becoming infatuated. "It would be so good if I could have him," she says. "Are you crazy?" Jong asks. "He is the king's man, a cheater." "He's an actor," the king says. "He works for money." Gong Gil winks at Gil and runs away. Gil faints. The king gives Gong Gil a note along with money and tells him to find the person who attacked him. This reveals that Gong Gil is not just an actor, but also the king's secret spy. Jong gets angry, telling the king he shouldn't have done this. "It was just a game to me," the king says. He then orders his guard to heat up a metal rod. Mokju arrives to watch the drama unfold. Gil is tied to a chair, and they prepare to burn her with the hot rod. Jong starts begging the king, "Please leave her alone." "I'll do whatever you say." "Fine," the king says. "Today, you will be my cook." Jong agrees and says she will need to bring Gil with her because she is her assistant. Both girls are taken to the kitchen, but the male chefs protest, saying only men can cook for the king. Since it's the king's order, no one can object. They are given permission to cook. "Where did you learn to cook?" a chef asks. "Even if I told you, you wouldn't believe or understand," Jong replies. She then begins to cook an art dish of the deer the king hunted in the last episode, relying on her experience. She uses the same cooking oil that she used to win the French cooking show. News of this reaches the king's grandmother, who is surprised. Mokju also gets the news and is shocked. A while later, food is served to the king, who is sitting with his stomach exposed. Jong looks at him and says to herself that he has no shame and is begging. She criticizes his messy appearance. The king asks about the dish. After eating it, he is filled with an indescribable joy, as if he's been transported to another world. He asks Jeong where she came from. She gives him the same answer as before, and he thinks she's crazy. Mokju, who is waiting outside, tries to enter, but the guards refuse to let her in, as the king has forbidden anyone from entering. She manages to fight her way past them and peeks inside, seeing the king and Jeong together. She is enraged. The king notices her and shouts, asking what's going on. Mokju says she has something for him, but the king refuses to let her in, telling her to bring it later. She leaves angrily. The king holds Jeong's hand, refusing to let her go. He tells her, "I have selected you." Jeong is worried. She wonders if he wants her to be his mistress. As a modern girl, she's not prepared for this and worries about how it will affect history. The chief inspector then approaches Jeong and asks her to spy on the king and report everything she sees to him. Jeong refuses, fearing the king will kill her if he finds out. The chief inspector tells her that the king chased Mokju away for the first time today because of her. He warns her that Mokju is a dangerous woman who will kill her if she gets the chance. "I will protect you, and in return, you must listen to me," he says. Jeong agrees but asks for her bag in return. She tries to explain what a handbag is, and the chief inspector understands. He tells her that the bag is not so easy to get, as the king is keeping it safely in the palace. Mokju is furious and asks her maid for a way to get rid of Jeong. Her maid suggests using the chefs to harass Jeong until she runs away. In the kitchen, the chefs have left a heat source on and placed cockroaches to bother them. However, Gil, who grew up in the jungle, knows how to handle these things. The girls return to their cell and curse the king. The next day, we see the same scene as in the beginning of the story, with everyone demanding that Jeong be killed. But the king says, "I am the king, so the decision is mine." Mokju's maid is the one who spread this lie. We then see the same scene from the beginning, where she was brought out to be executed. Everyone is yelling for her death, but the king says, "From today, you are the head of my kitchen and my personal chef. You will cook and serve new food every day, and the food should not be repeated. If I don't like it, you will be killed." The other ministers and high-ranking officials are unhappy that the king is listening to a girl he just met instead of them. Mokju's maid apologizes because her plan has failed, but Mokju gets a new idea. She goes to the grandmother and tells her that Jeong was the one who orchestrated the attack on the king in the forest. She also tells her that the king knows this and asked her to keep it a secret. The grandmother is surprised and says she will hold a cooking competition. If Jeong fails, her hands will be chopped off. Meanwhile, Jeong and Gil are taken out of jail and given a room. They are happy because it is warm and it was very cold in jail. They are given new kitchen clothes, which they must wear to enter the kitchen. The next day, we see them ready, having bathed and changed clothes, and on their way to the kitchen. All the staff are rude to them and refuse to cook. Jeong says, "I am the head here, and I have not come here to cook food. I have come to keep an eye on you all because the king told me to do all this." Everyone is scared that if they make a mistake, she will tell the king, and he will have them killed. Just then, Lady Kim arrives and takes Jeong to meet the king's grandmother, who is sitting with Mokju. The grandmother says, "Look at the conversation with your senior cook. There will be a competition. If I don't like your food, I will have your hands chopped off." Jeong is terrified by these words. She looks down at her hands and then at Mokju, who is smiling. Jeong understands completely that this is Mokju's doing. The chief inspector sends word to the king about the competition, and in the palace, preparations begin. Mokju is overjoyed, confident that this witch will die because she is going to lose. The king enters the palace and meets his grandmother, whom he hasn't seen in a long time. They live in different parts of the vast palace, so they only meet every few weeks. She's happy to see him, but the king quickly gets to the point. "You haven't done well," he says. "First, she is my personal chef. You cannot cut her hands. But if you insist on a competition, then the loser's hands must be cut, not just Jeong's." He adds that if the competition is to be fair, the punishment must also be equal. The tools for chopping off hands are brought out and placed in front of Jong. She is scared, touching her hands and remembering her father. She knows she has to work hard and cook a great meal today. The king sits and thinks to himself, if you truly came from the future, you will have to prove it today. We see that the king's grandmother is becoming very sick, so she writes down a word that will be the theme of today's cooking competition. The ingredients for the dish must be related to that word, but it is an old-fashioned word from another era. At first, Jong doesn't understand what is written. She looks at the ingredients, like tofu and soybeans, and tries to figure out what she can make with them. Jong thinks hard. Then she remembers a pasta dish her father once made for her using these same ingredients. She decides to prepare that dish. The other two competitors rush to the kitchen to grab the best ingredients, quickly taking almost everything. Jong is left with only a few scraps. The king's grandmother asks the king why he is taking this girl's side. The king answers that he wants to get to know her. The grandmother replies that she is very weak and cannot eat much. The king tells her, after eating Jong's food, you will feel much better. The two chefs step forward and begin working on their dishes. Jong is still in the kitchen searching for ingredients because the others have taken nearly everything. Then the old chef approaches and tells her that he has some ingredients he can share with her. Meanwhile, the royal advisors also hear about the competition. They secretly plot to kill Jong. After some time, Jong comes out to begin cooking. The old chef tells her a story. When the king's grandmother was first brought to the palace as a child, she was separated from her family. The last time she saw her mother had made her a soup. The grandmother still remembers it to this day. The old chef believes that if someone can recreate that soup, it would make the grandmother very happy. Jong decides to make that very soup to impress her. Meanwhile, the two chefs, who have worked together for years like brothers, begin fighting with each other out of fear and desperation. They know the punishment for failure may be having their hands cut off, and the pressure drives them apart. Jong, feeling overwhelmed, tries to sneak outside but is caught. Leaving the grounds is forbidden. She explains that she needs certain ingredients that can only be found outside. The king allows her to go, but warns, "You must return and make good food, or both of your hands will be cut off." Jong curses him in her mind. With time running out, she sends Gil in her place. At the same time, Mokju discreetly signals her maid and sends her outside as well. The king's two stepmothers, seated nearby, worry about what Jong might be preparing. Mokju loudly supports the male chef, praising his skill and saying she looks forward to eating his dish. The king's grandmother agrees with her. The king, however, waits patiently to see what Jong will bring. Outside, Mokju's maid pushes Gil to the ground and tries to stab her with a hairpin. Inside, Jong waits anxiously for Gil. When Gil finally returns, her head is bleeding. Everyone is shocked, whispering about what Jong might be making. Some even suspect she is preparing poison. The king silences them all. "Grandmother," he asks, "why do you want to kill Jong?" Time runs out. The first male chef presents his dish. The maid tastes it first, then the king. Everyone agrees it is very good. The second male chef then presents his dish. Finally, it is Jong's turn. She serves a soup. Everyone tries it. The king's grandmother cannot stop herself from drinking it eagerly. With tears in her eyes, she asks Jong how she made it. Jong replies simply that it was very easy for her to prepare. The grandmother begins to cry, remembering the soup her mother once made. Jong tells her she made it because the grandmother has grown weak. The grandmother tells her to keep making this soup for her. And this is how Jong wins the competition. As everyone begins to leave, the king suddenly says, "Stop. Hands will be cut off now." He orders the hands of the two chefs to be severed. Jong rushes forward to stop him. "You can't do this to them," she pleads. The king grows furious. "You dare question my decision? You'll be killed as well, aren't you afraid?" Jong answers, "What will you gain by cutting off their hands?" Their hands are everything to them. They use them to cook. Without hands, they are nothing. The king's grandmother also intervenes, telling the king to let them go. At last, the king relents. He spares them but declares, "From now on, you will work under Jeong. You will learn how to cook from her." Later, we see the king's grandmother speaking with his stepmothers. They whisper that the king has no idea what truly happened to his mother. We learn that his mother was poisoned. though everyone was told she died from illness. Many secrets remain hidden, and we will uncover them later. The king also learns that Mokju was the one who persuaded the grandmother to start the cooking competition in the first place. In the kitchen, the two chefs begin treating Jong with respect. She makes them cook for her. Jong asks Gil what happened outside. Gil explains that a maid tried to kill her, but Gong Gil saved her life. She couldn't see the maid's face. We then see that same maid reporting back to Mokju, insisting that Jong is a spy and should be kidnapped. But Mokju refuses, saying the king lives too close and the risk is too great. Just then, the king storms in, enraged. He shouts at Mokju, "Why are you always turning grandmother against Jeong?" Mokju answers coldly, "You were supposed to take revenge for your mother's death. But now you chase after this girl. I did all of this for you." The king shouts back that she should have told him the truth. He never expected betrayal from her. Mokju tries to sway him emotionally, bringing up painful memories, and the king clutches his head in agony before storming out in anger. Meanwhile, the king's enemy, Jason, also knows everything happening in the palace. He sends his spy to investigate the man who once attacked the king. Shockingly, we learn that the attacker was none other than Gong Gil. The chief inspector visits Jong with jewelry, telling her the king has sent it for her to wear in order to win his heart. Jong is confused and says she is not that kind of person. The inspector warns her that she doesn't understand why the king protects her so much. Jong insists, "He is only crazy about my food. That's why he supports me." The inspector warns, "If you think you can survive here just by cooking, you're wrong. You'll need more than that." Later, Jong prepares dinner for the king. The head chef warns her that the king is unwell, suffering from headaches. He tells her to check the food 2 or 3 times because the king often gets angry and throws dishes away. Jong wonders why someone so strong and fit would be so unwell. She decides she must cook something that will comfort him. When she brings the food, the king is in a foul mood and has ordered everyone to leave. Jeong begins to leave too, but he stops her. Nervously, she stays. He asks her what she has cooked. He assumes it is something familiar, but she says no. It is pasta. He doesn't know how to eat it, so Jong feeds him. The king loves it and finishes every bite. His mood changes completely. Jong tells him that her mother used to make pasta for her whenever she was sad. The king asks where her mother is. Jong explains that her mother died when she was very young. The king grows quiet, feeling a connection because his mother also left him. He asks about her father. Jong says her father must be looking for her, but has no idea she is here. The king offers to send him a message. Jong laughs softly. "That's not possible. I told you I'm not from here. I'm from the future. If I had my bag, I could prove it." The king remembers the bag he once threw down the hill. Jong tells him that a book inside that bag may have brought her here. The king challenges her. "If you are really from the future, then tell me my future. If you tell the truth, I'll believe you, and I'll return your bag." Jong knows his future holds betrayal from those closest to him, but she cannot reveal it without changing history. So she only tells him, "Be careful of the people near you." After she leaves, we see the king secretly writing a book. In it, he records all of Jong's dishes. He remembers Jong once said her book was called Mango Drop. He writes her name on the back of his own book, and suddenly, the book inside Jong's bag begins to glow and disappears. This means that the book the king is writing is the very same book Jong discovered in her own time. Later, the king's bodyguard reports that the man investigating his mother's death has been murdered. He found only a pool of blood and the man's nameplate. The king realizes that only he and the investigator knew of this secret. He cannot understand who betrayed him. Feeling abandoned and surrounded by enemies, he begins to drink heavily. That night, the head chef wakes Jong and asks her to cook for the king. She prepares a special dish and takes it to him. The king, drunk and restless, pulls her close. "Don't leave, hoit," he whispers. Overwhelmed, Jong freezes as the king leans in. He is so drunk that he kisses her. The next morning, after the king had forcefully kissed Jong, she is furious. Her eyes are red and she is pounding fish into powder. Everyone is whispering about her, saying she's been pounding the fish all night. Gil nervously asks, "Why did you beat this dead fish and kill it again?" Jong is preparing hangover soup for the king. though in her heart she wishes she could poison it. The king wakes up hungover with no memory of last night. Zhang, her eyes still blazing with anger, brings him the soup. "Your Majesty, please drink this. It's fresh fish soup." The king says, "Yes, it looks quite tasty. But where's the fish inside it?" Zhang replies coldly, "I beat it into a powder." Then with a dangerous tone, she asks, "Would you like more?" The king, unsettled, dismisses the others and quietly asks what happened. Zhang says, "Have you forgotten, Your Majesty? You grabbed me and pulled me close." The king cannot believe it. As Zhang starts to leave, he grabs her and asks her to explain. Calmly but firmly, Zhang tells him, "You are not my ideal type. I like a different kind of man. You should only see me as your cook, nothing more." Confused, the king summons the head eunuch, who blushes and confirms that the two of them kissed. Shocked, the king remembers everything and turns red with shame. Outside, Zhang fumes. He made a mistake, forgot, and isn't even apologizing. Just then, she meets Gongil. She asks him, "You are the king's guard, right? Tell me who attacked my friend." Gongil replies, "I didn't see her face, but she wore maid's clothes." Perhaps it was her later. We see Gongil holding a hairpin cover belonging to Mokju's maid, the same kind connected to his sister's murder years ago. His sister, who once served the king's mother, was killed when the queen was dragged out of the palace. Determined, Gongil begins searching for the maid. Mokju's maid reports everything, and Mokju convinces herself that Gongil likes Zhang, thinking that's why he saves her. It will be harder to kill her now. He'll always be protecting her. Meanwhile, the chief reports to the king. Illegal medicine is being sold, and very little is reaching the people. The envoy of Ming is coming soon to discuss the matter and to meet the king. Preparations for a grand welcome are underway. The king frowns. "Oh, the same man who refused to help us stop the smuggling of women? Why is he coming? No grand welcome. Everything will be normal." The chief adds cautiously, "There are also rumors that you kissed Jiang." The head eunuch had already leaked it. The king glares at him. Then, arrogantly, he says, "Yes, I am the king. My kiss is only received by the lucky ones. I saved her life. She should thank me." Instead, she is roaming around angry. The chief advises, "Then give her a gift. Something she likes, not something strange. That will please her." In court, the king refuses to waste silver gifts on the envoy. That is the people's hard-earned money. Do everything normally. The head eunuch announces Mokju wishes to see him, but the king refuses. "I don't want to meet her." Mokju prepares to seduce the king, but he avoids her. Haunted by the memory of his mother being dragged away, the king refuses to eat. This news enrages Mokju further when she hears that Zhang and the king kissed. Determined, she plans to win him over by cooking for his checkup tomorrow. In the kitchen, Zhang insists on cooking despite the king's refusal. A jealous chef, still bitter over losing the competition, recalls Mokju's order to poison the food. He prepares to act. Meanwhile, Zhang serves the king, but he rejects her dishes again and again. Exhausted, she collapses, wondering, "What am I doing? How is my father now?" Looking at the moon, she imagines the king's face. Why is this dog in the moon? At the same time, the king remembers Zhang, his heart beating faster. Suddenly, he orders food. Zhang is informed, and she brings it to him. To her joy, he eats. Their eyes meet, both hearts beating quickly. Elsewhere, Jason learns who ordered the king's attack, an old man named Young Sun. He gives the attacker money to flee, warning him not to return. But as the man leaves, Jason's men ambush him. Skilled, the attacker fights back and escapes. Furious, Jason threatens his guards. "Catch him next time, or I'll cut your throats." The next day is the king's physical exam. Mokju writes down a dish and has her maid deliver it to Chef Mansu. Zhang, however, gathers the chefs and declares, "The order didn't come from the king. We will cook what we want." Together, they prepare a unique dish. Mokju storms in, tastes it, and deliberately knocks it to the floor before leaving. Zhang burns with anger. During the checkup, Jason and the doctor examine the king, who is perfectly healthy. Then the food arrives. Mokju's dish and the chef's dish. The king, however, is focused only on Zhang. He asks why there are two dishes. Mokju explains hers is one and the other is from the other chefs. Jason, curious, tastes Zhang's food and praises her highly. Then both the king and Jason try Mokju's dish. It is fine, but nothing special. When they eat Zhang's dish, their eyes widen in amazement. The taste makes them feel as if they're floating, and they finish every bite, leaving Mokju's untouched. Mokju seethes with rage. Jason says, "Both of you made good food. Tell me, what do you want?" Mokju replies sweetly, "I only wish for the king's health." Zhang, though longing for her bag, asks instead for fresh vegetables. That night, the king writes about Zhang's dish in his journal and sketches it. The same book Zhang will discover in the future that brings her here by time travel. Meanwhile, the chief examines Zhang's bag. He is shocked to find a passport and photographs, things that do not exist in this era. He nervously delivers the bag to the king as a gift for Zhang, knowing it will make her happy. He also warns that the envoy from Ming has brought 3 skilled chefs to insult the kingdom's cuisine. The envoy arrives, sneers at the local food, and orders his own chefs to cook. They prepare a dazzling dish in no time. He sends word, "Tell your king I will not eat your food." It is terrible. Meanwhile, Zhang's wish comes true. The head eunuch takes her to the royal gardens where fresh fruits and vegetables grow. Thrilled, Zhang explores, recalling she read of this place in history. The king arrives and warns her not to cross a marked area. Poisonous plants grow there, but they are chili peppers. Zhang plucks one and eats it. The king panics. The mad woman ate poison. But Zhang laughs. "No, this is chili. It makes food more delicious." The king then presents her bag. Overjoyed, Zhang jumps with excitement and hugs him. To her shock, he sincerely apologizes for kissing her, an act unthinkable for a ruler. Zhang is stunned. Then the king holds her close and confesses, "I don't just see you as a chef anymore. I see you as much more." Zhang stares, confused. "What are you saying? What do you mean?" But just then, their feet slip and they fall on top of each other. The king yells at her, "How dare you? How could you fall like that?" But Zhang has a thorn stuck in her hand. Concerned, the king immediately tells her to go to the hospital. Zhang brushes it off, saying, "This happens all the time in the kitchen when I use a knife." She then adds, "I'm leaving now since I've found my bag. I should also get my book and my phone." But when she checks, the book is missing. Everything else is inside the bag except her phone and the book. Distressed, she asks, "Where did you get this from?" The king replies that the chief gave it to him. Both of them confront the chief, who insists there was no book in the bag. Zhang argues furiously, "All of my belongings are inside, big and small. How could only the book be missing?" The king reasons, "Why would the chief even take a book?" and assures her, "I'll send a team to search the forest, and if it's not there, we'll search the entire kingdom." Still, Zhang insists, "I need that book to go home," and walks away in sadness. Back in the kitchen, the other chefs are secretly drinking. When they notice Zhang, they hide the alcohol, but soon offer her some. Zhang drinks, becomes drunk, and begins to act strangely. She sings and tells her whole story through the song, making everyone laugh and dance. Later, when she sobers up, it is already night. She panics. "Oh no, I forgot to cook the king's meal." But Gil reassures her that another chef already prepared it. She also asks, "Is your book missing?" Shocked, Zhang demands to know how she found out. Gil explains that she revealed everything herself while singing drunkenly, what she had lost and what she found in the bag. Zhang is now even more troubled. Not only did she fail to prepare the king's food, but she also exposed her secrets in front of everyone. Meanwhile, the king gazes at the moon and wonders, where will Zhang take the book? Where is her home? The next day, the minister tells the king that the royal envoy refuses to eat local food and demands to see him. Everyone worries about what they can cook to satisfy him. The king dismissively says, "Feed him anything. If he won't eat, let him starve." The 3 chefs under him will prepare food for him, but the court insists they must prepare something special. The head eunuch delivers the news to the kitchen. The envoy and his chefs are arrogant. They host cooking competitions everywhere, defeat the locals, and insult them publicly. Zhang declares, "I will make a dish that will truly amaze them." When the king meets the envoy, he asks, "What's wrong? You don't like our food?" The envoy replies, "Yes. If my chefs hadn't come, I would have starved to death by now." He introduces his 3 Chinese cooks, Tang, a master chef, Kia, a professional vegetable cutter, and Kang, another skilled cutter. He invites the king to taste their food, boasting, "You will love it." The king accepts and declares, My chef will also prepare a special dish for you. The envoy, already having heard about Zhang, looks forward to tasting her cooking. Zhang has been preparing a particular dish for days and she decides to make it. Meanwhile, the envoy demands that women be sacrificed in exchange for trade goods, just as in previous years. The king flatly refuses. The envoy warns, "This is an order from King Ming. Those who disobey will face dire consequences." Zhang completes her dish, a sweet dessert, and serves it. The envoy is astonished. "What is this? We've never eaten anything like it." His cooks taste it and are enchanted, transported as if to another world. One by one, everyone eats it and is overwhelmed with delight. The envoy demands, "What is this? What did you mix in it?" Zhang calmly explains. Deeply impressed, the envoy proposes, "Let's hold a cooking competition. If you win, you won't need to send extra women, only the usual tribute. But if you lose, we take what we want." Terrified, Zhang signals the king to refuse. But the king accepts, saying, "If you have 3 chefs, then so do we." The 3-on-3 competition is set. Later, Zhang scolds him. "Why did you agree when I signaled you to refuse?" The king replies, "Refuse? You held up 3 fingers. 3 chefs." She protests, "No, that was the sign to refuse. We will lose for sure, and using women as a bet was wrong." She asks, "What happens if I lose or don't compete?" The king answers, "You'll be declared a traitor and punished." Horrified, Zhang whispers, "Then my death is certain." The king responds firmly, "Then win. Simple. I promise you, I will find your book and return it to you." The grandmother, upon hearing the news, is outraged. She believes Zhang cannot possibly defeat the Chinese and writes directly to King Ming to stop the competition. Meanwhile, Jason visits Mokju and brings her Zhang's dish. They both taste it and marvel at how delicious it is. Though Mokju, jealous and bitter, scoffs, "It's too sweet. I won't eat it." Certain that Zhang will lose, they begin plotting to contact King Ming and overthrow their king. They send gifts to the envoy along with a messenger who whispers, "Our king is mad. He has seizures, refuses food, and behaves erratically. Please tell King Ming." The envoy realizes they want to remove their king but refuses to join their scheme. Instead, he orders his cooks, "You must win this competition." That night, Gong Gil spies on the Chinese cooks and notices they are not only skilled chefs, but also trained fighters. He reports this to the king. Elsewhere, Mokju scolds Minsu for failing to poison the king. When Minsu promises to win the competition, Mokju snaps, "No, you must lose it." Shocked, Minsu realizes her true plan. Back in the kitchen, Zhang slices large amounts of chili peppers. The others panic, thinking it's poison. Zhang laughs, "This is not poison," and pops one into her mouth. When they try, smoke bursts from their ears and noses, as chilies are new and unbearably hot for them. The head eunuch interrupts, saying the king is calling her. The king agrees to accompany Zhang to the market for ingredients. She objects, "You're the king. How can you?" But he insists, giving her palace dresses to wear. After trying several, she looks stunning in the final one, leaving the king momentarily mesmerized. At the market, Zhang focuses on spices and chilies, while the king slips away to buy her a decorative accessory she had admired. It begins to rain. Meanwhile, back in the palace, Gil gathers the chilies, only to be interrupted by Kia, the Chinese cook, who insults everyone and challenges them to a vegetable cutting competition. She easily humiliates the royal chefs before storming off. Later, Zhang returns to the king with a blue flower, telling him, "Keep this in your room." Its fragrance calms the mind. It has a kind of magic. When a man nearly bumps into her, the king rushes to protect her, spilling the flowers. They kneel to pick them up, smearing dirt playfully on each other's faces until evening falls. That night, Zhang reassures the king, "I will definitely win." She gives him the flower, and he, in turn, gifts her the accessory he secretly bought. She is stunned, wondering why he would give her such a gift. On her way back to the kitchen, she encounters Kia again, but Kia runs off. Inside, Zhang finds the kitchen in chaos, vegetables scattered and chefs crying. Gil explains Kia ruined everything during the competition. Zhang rallies them. "She came only to demoralize you. Don't be afraid, we will win." The next day, both teams select the themes for the 3-round competition. The first is meat, the second is river food, And the third, chosen sleepily by Jason, is ginseng, a powerful medicinal root. The envoy raises the stakes. If we win, we take 100 women and all your ginseng. The king counters, if we win, we will send the usual tribute only, and in return, we will claim all the sugarcane we need from China. Though the envoy warns that permission must come from King Ming, he agrees to request it. Both sides are given 5 days to prepare. Kia later mocks the royal chefs as slow and useless, and ridicules the chilies they are using. She tells the envoy, I don't even know what this strange thing is. What will they possibly make with it? By the way, here's something interesting for you. Chili peppers were actually first discovered in the Americas, but it was the Portuguese traders who carried them across the world. That's how they reached India, Japan, and Korea. And now, in Korea, chili isn't just an ingredient, it's a way of life. People eat it raw, cooked, and in almost every dish you can think of. That was my own little research for you, so if you liked it, hit like and subscribe. Now, back to the drama. In the kitchen, where Zhang is introducing everyone to the pressure cooker and explaining how to use it. No one has ever seen or used such a thing before, so they don't know what it is. And they'll need to specially commission someone to build it. They are all working very hard during the 5 days they were given, learning new things every day, and Jason is quietly observing all this. The Chinese chefs are also working diligently to prepare a perfect winning dish. Zhang holds cooking classes daily, teaching and explaining techniques to the chefs. The king is seen peeking in on them today. When Zhang comes to check, the king hides and sighs with relief, saying, I escaped today. The next day, Zhang talks to the king about the cooker. She stresses that it is an extremely important item and that without it, defeating the Chinese is impossible. However, the king says that it's unavailable here and they don't even know what it is. Zhang names a man who can build it, but the king says he is dead. The head eunuch interjects that the man's assistant named Chun can make it. Zhang is delighted and asks to meet him. She also needs to buy some supplies from outside, so she wants to go out, and the king also wants to go with her. The head eunuch tells the king he cannot go, warning that the journey will be long and unsafe, and he could be attacked outside. So the king sends the chief with Zhang instead. As they leave, the chief adjusts the Zhang fallen bag on her back, which makes the king jealous. He tells his bodyguard, look how they're walking, as if they're newly married. I can't stand to see all this, and starts planning with his bodyguard. On the way, Zhang repeatedly asks the chief for the book, but the chief is fed up and says, the book is not with me, where should I get it from? I have already assigned men to search for it. The king has started to love you, so from now on I will call you Queen. Zhang blushes and says, quiet, I'll be leaving for my own world in a few days anyway. Just then, Gong Gil arrives, and then the king and his bodyguard also appear. The chief says, you shouldn't have come here. The king says he is very worried about Zhang. The bodyguard jokes that since Zhang looks like a man, they don't need to worry, but the king sees Zhang as a cute girl. Ignoring everyone's protests, he sends the chief back to the palace and continues with Zhang himself. The chief returns and informs the head eunuch, stressing that no one should know that the king has left the palace, especially going so far, or else he might be attacked. The king's room is locked. They need to answer the officials as to why the king's room is locked. The chief says the king is very sick and needs to be alone. The officials, however, don't believe this is true at all. The four travelers walk a great distance to reach Chun's house, and their feet start aching. News of the king's departure reaches Jason, who learns they went out to get supplies for the competition. Jason orders an attack on them, seeing it as a good opportunity, and sends some soldiers to kill Jiang, not the king. The four stand outside the house of the person named Chun. There's a warning sign on the gate. The king says, look how rude he is. Who puts up a sign like that? And opens the door. Immediately, a trap is triggered and a cannonball fires out. The bodyguard rushes forward to shield the king, as is his duty, and the king grabs Jiang. But the cannonball just releases grains of rice, not a bomb, so they are safe. Chun is sitting nearby. The king begins to scold him. How dare you do all this? Do you know who I am? Jiang quickly says, no, don't tell him, don't tell him. Chun asks, who are you people? All four of you look like dogs. The three men get so angry that if Zhang hadn't been there, they would have beaten Chun to death. Zhang says, I am the chief royal cook, and I need your help. Chun tells them to, get out of here, all of you, or the next trap will kill all four of you, and shows them a horrifying trap filled with arrows. Everyone runs away in fear. However, Zhang yells, do you know how sweet rice is made? Chun says, no, what is that? How is it made? Zhang gives him a little sugar and tells him to mix it with the rice. The king is getting restless, wanting to cut off Chun's hand, but Zhang stops him, saying, "We have to win his heart, only then will he help us." Inside, Chun is eating the sweet rice. Chun says, "This is delicious, but it must be quite expensive, right?" Zhang replies, "No, it's made from sugar cane, and the king has plenty of it. I will get it for you. Just help me." Chun lets Zhang inside. The king is burning with jealousy, wondering what the two of them are doing alone inside. The king is clearly quite fond of Zhang and feels insecure. The bodyguard assures him they are just working and stops the king and his own guard from entering. Inside, Zhang is explaining the cooker to him. Chun can't believe she's actually from the palace, but Zhang tells him about the upcoming competition and other things. Chun agrees to listen but refuses to help. Zhang then mentions his master's name, who was also his uncle. Chun accuses them, saying, "You people betrayed my uncle. Your kingdom is a traitor, and they abandoned my uncle, so I will not help you," and he throws Zhang out. The news that the king and Zhang have gone outside, and the reason why, reaches Mokju. Her maid then starts talking about Gongil, whose sister used to work in the palace and died. The maid suggests that Gongil may have come to find the killer. We can see pure fear on Mokju's face, suggesting a possible link there. The news about the king also reaches the grandmother. The stepmother suggests that the king might have gone on a date with Zhang. The grandmother is furious, asking why her king would go out with a mere cook. As night falls, the four travelers spend the night outside. The next day, preparations are in full swing in both kitchens. The fire is lit on both sides, waiting to see who will win. Kia goes to Jason and gives him some expensive food item, asking for something in return. What that is remains unknown to us. Due to the rain, everyone is still stuck outside. Suddenly, Zhang remembers a dish that is named after Chun's village and is very popular there. She sends the king out into the rain to the market to get the ingredients. When they return with the supplies, she makes the dish, the fragrance of which reaches inside Chun's house. He comes out desperately wanting to eat and stops when he sees them. Zhang says, "Oh, come on, eat." But Chun refuses and just stands there watching. The king starts eating, tells his guards to eat too, and everyone starts eating. The bodyguard and Gongil, who are eating Zhang's food for the first time, are absolutely stunned by how delicious it is. Chun can't control himself either, grabs some, eats it, and is happy, realizing, "This is the food from my village. It's making me nostalgic." Zhang says, "Your uncle was a great man whom our kingdom and king have not forgotten. He invented many things that are still useful and help people today. So you must help us too." Chun agrees to make the cooker. Gongil will stay inside to help him while the other three go out to get food supplies. Here, ginseng is shown for the first time. Wild ginseng. The king declares, "From now on, this belongs to me because I found it, and it's on my land." In the Chinese kitchen, Kia starts making a unique dish, but the other chefs say, "What have you made? We don't know about this, so why should we make it? We might lose. Don't put such things in the food." Kia says, "Trust me, I will definitely win with this," and Tang approves it. Now news of the king being outside, along with the information that they went out for competition supplies, reaches the envoy via Jason's man. The fact that soldiers were sent to kill Zhang is also mentioned. Tang overhears all of this secretly. Another day passes. A ninja runs up to them, hands them a note, and quickly runs away. This note is quickly shown to the head eunuch and then the chief. They check the page, but it's blank. However, when it's held up to the light, a clear message appears. The king and Zhang will be attacked today. They are terrified, and the chief quickly gathers a full team and rushes out to find the king. The ambush. The next day arrives. The cooker is completely ready. Outside, the soldiers and the chief are both rapidly heading toward the king. Here, everyone is quickly preparing to leave because the competition is imminent. But suddenly, the soldiers attack them. Chun's traps have already sent a warning notification. The whole house starts shaking, and they are surrounded from all sides. The king reveals, "I am the king, and they have come for me." And Chun understands. He gives everyone swords since they were unarmed. The dangerous traps are triggered, wounding half of the soldiers, but the rest manage to break in and start fighting. The king is running away with Zhang, but when the situation worsens, they also have to join the fight, and the battle begins. As they flee, the cooker's lid falls off and stays behind at Chun's house, and they have to run for their lives. The bodyguard fights alone and keeps fighting even after being severely wounded. Gongil also starts fighting. However, another group of soldiers catches the king and Zhang and attack the king, trying to kill him completely because he is badly wounded. Just as a soldier advances to finish him off, the chief arrives and strikes him down. All the soldiers are defeated, but those who are still alive stab themselves in the neck and take their own lives. They do this because if they were captured, They would be interrogated about who sent them, and if they didn't reveal the information, they would face very severe punishment, worse than death itself, so people would confess out of pain. Therefore, death was considered a better option. The bodyguard is completely wounded, and Zhang quickly gets up, grabs her pressure cooker, and runs away. But the lid is left behind at Chun's house, and he yells out a promise that he will definitely bring the lid. News reaches Jason that the mission has failed. The competition waits. In the next scene, everyone is on the competition stage. A long time has passed. Zhang and the king are still outside. They haven't arrived. Everyone is waiting for them. Meanwhile, the king and Zhang are quickly heading toward the palace. The envoy says that since they haven't arrived, the competition should start. 3 of ours and 2 of theirs. But Tang is a fair person. How can the competition start without an opponent? They would automatically win, and that wouldn't be fun. So he refuses and says they should wait a little longer. The envoy agrees, but when that time also passes, they finalize the decision to start the competition. Just then, news arrives that the entire team has arrived outside and everyone rushes to see them. Half are happy to see the king and Zhang, and half are surprised, wondering how they survived the attack. It is suspected that Tang must be the one who saved the king because he had overheard Jason's man and his own boss, the envoy. So he might have been the one who gave the note to the king's men, who then went and saved his life. The competition begins as everyone returns, and the king orders the chief to announce the start of the round. The first dish is to be meat, something no one has ever eaten, seen, or tasted before. Everyone starts working. Zhang's hand is still injured from her fall, but she continues cooking. The Chinese chefs cut their meat in a very unique way, and from their side, Kia takes charge of the first dish, boiling the meat. Suddenly, one of the cooks announces that the chili powder is missing. Panic spreads since Zhang had prepared everything around it. Zhang quickly remembers a dish and begins giving orders. She mixes red wine into the meat, confusing everyone. Who mixes wine into meat? Tang is stunned, but Zhang is creating a modern dish. Meanwhile, Kia smugly pulls chili powder from her pocket, the thief. Now all eyes are on Zhang's team, and everyone assumes they will lose because of the strange wine mixture. The envoy mocks the king, but the king calmly says, "Don't be so quick, wait." Kia then drops chili powder into oil, filling the air with smoke and causing people to cough. Zhang immediately realizes who stole her chili powder. Then Kia produces a rare wine that no one has ever tasted before, made by a special family, boosting her confidence. Suddenly, Zhang sets her pan on fire, a technique no one there has ever seen. The crowd is amazed. Both girls work hard, and soon, the dishes are ready to be judged. As the judges taste Zhang's dish, they feel transported to heaven. They've never tasted anything like it. The king asks what it is called, and Zhang replies, "Red wine meat." The envoy marvels, "It melted like snow in my mouth." Jason also enjoys it. Next comes Kia's dish, chicken peanut with red wine, a Ming Dynasty creation. The judges taste it, experiencing chili for the first time. Their mouths burn, yet they're transported to a world of bold flavors. The envoy praises the dish, while Kia claims she made it with special red oil. Zhang senses something wrong. Red oil cannot exist without chili powder. The envoy insists on voting for his chef, while the king defends Zhang. The scores are written, but the chief hints that the envoy gave Zhang only 4 points. Before the result is announced, Zhang demands to taste Kia's dish. The chief protests, but the king allows it. Zhang tastes it and declares, "There's chili in this. She stole my powder." Tang scolds Kia, apologizes, and admits defeat. The envoy is left speechless, and Zhang is declared the winner of the round. But Kia protests, claiming she didn't steal it. She traded for it with Jason. All eyes turn to Jason. Laughing nervously, he admits, "I'm the head of supplies. I saw Zhang with a red powder, thought it was harmful, and removed it from the kitchen." The envoy supports him, demanding the result. But Tang already admitted defeat. The king compromises, saying, "Both sides have points." This round is a tie. If all 3 rounds end in a tie, the Chinese team wins. The round ends with everyone uneasy. That night, Zhang cries, worried about facing Tang tomorrow, especially without chili. She remembers a dish from the China-US summit in 1970 and decides it might save her. Meanwhile, Jason, unbothered, jokes that he got caught but enjoyed the food. The chief scolds Jason for giving away such a valuable item. Jason apologizes, insisting he didn't know its worth. When asked if he gave all of it, Jason admits he saved some. The king orders him to return it to Jiang. The news reaches the grandmother, who becomes suspicious of Jason's loyalty. Elsewhere, Mokju threatens poor Minsu again, warning him to lose tomorrow or she'll harm his mother. Terrified, Minsu is trapped between duty and fear. The next day, the second round begins. Both sides must cook each other's traditional dish. The Chinese reveal their secret ingredient, the rare golden lotus. The king is astonished at the sight. Zhang prepares duck, but only Minsu knows the perfect way to cut it. Under Mokju's threat, he injures his own hand. The envoy laughs at their incompetence. The task passes to Gil, who, thanks to Minsu's training, manages the cuts. Tang's dish is served first, impressing the judges. Suddenly, Tang speaks fluent Korean, shocking everyone. He explains how a Korean monk once saved him, and he lived in Joseon for 5 years, learning their food and language. His story leaves the audience deeply moved. Then Zhang presents her dish, roasted Peking duck, once favored by Chinese royalty. The judges taste it and feel transported among heavenly apsaras. Deeply impressed, they prepare to announce the scores. The announcement of the second round's winner began. The king awarded the Chinese team's chef Tang 8 points, impressed by his deep respect for and extensive knowledge of Korea. However, the envoy deliberately gave Zhang only 1 point, an act of blatant sabotage. The king was enraged, condemning the unfair scoring as unjust. Tang himself was visibly embarrassed by the political manipulation unfolding. The king immediately voided the envoy's score and declared a new rule. From now on, chefs would taste their own dishes and score themselves. Zhang suggested that since cooking was a collective effort, the score should be a consensus from the entire team. The king agreed, and the round was officially declared a tie. The envoy seemed satisfied, knowing that if all 3 rounds ended tied, the Chinese team would win under the pre-established rules. The king then announced the final round would be held the following day. Afterward, the king summoned Zhang. He expressed concern for her well-being and asked about her injured hand. She admitted it hurt when chopping vegetables. When he asked about the special cooker, she said she was still waiting, though confident Chun would deliver it. As she served tea, some spilled on her injured hand, and the king immediately called for the royal doctor. Meanwhile, the chief ordered all remaining chili powder confiscated from Jason. On the other side, the envoy was seen furiously scolding his chefs for failing to win even a single round. Round 3, Victory and Confrontation. The next day marked the final round, the ginseng soup challenge. Zhang remained anxious about the cooker. The Chinese team confidently displayed their rare ingredient, the golden lotus, leaving spectators stunned. During the tense cooking, Chun made a dramatic entrance, landing his plane outside the venue and delivering the fragile but precious pressure cooker. He cautioned Zhang to use low heat, reminding her of its damaged state after the earlier attack, and urged her not to lose. When the whistle finally blew, the crowd gasped in astonishment. Zhang presented her black chicken ginseng soup. The king proudly explained to the envoy that this was a dish eaten by royal families in Europe and America. When the judges tasted it, they found the dish exquisite and unmatched. Next came the Chinese team's dish, bula zong, which was also judged magnificent. To ensure fairness, the king suggested the chefs taste each other's dishes and assign the final scores. But a problem arose. The third Chinese chef outright refused to eat Korean food. The envoy smugly argued that the chef could judge simply by smelling it. The king worried this would mean certain defeat. Remembering the chef's past, Zhang quickly crafted a special multi-ingredient soup, recreating a taste that mirrored a dish the chef's grandmother once made. The moment he tasted it, the chef was overwhelmed with emotion, breaking down in tears and declaring it the best thing he had eaten in years. He publicly conceded defeat. The final scores were revealed. The Chinese team awarded Zhang's team 28 points, while Zhang's team gave the Chinese 27. Zhang's team had officially won the competition. The envoy's humiliation and the poison plot. Defeated, the envoy arrogantly demanded a gift, pointing directly at Zhang. Her! I want her for my king. The king exploded in rage, striking the envoy on the head and calling for his soldiers. The queen mother swiftly intervened. When the envoy repeated his demand, she revealed a letter from the Chinese king himself. At once, the envoy and his team fell to their knees in humiliation, forced to retreat in disgrace. The queen mother then announced that Prince Jin was arriving, and a special meal would be hosted in his honor. The king assured her he would personally dine with the prince. Meanwhile, Jason and Mokju plotted in secret. They had obtained a slow-acting poison to slip into Prince Jin's food, planning to frame Zhang for the crime. Jason hesitated, but Mokju assured him they would not be caught, and even promised to marry him if the scheme succeeded. Later, the king gifted Jiang beautiful new clothes and asked her to meet him in the royal garden after lunch. Regretfully, she declined, explaining she had to see the departing Chinese chefs. Betrayal and imprisonment. Prince Jin arrived and was thoroughly impressed by Jiang's cooking. He praised her talent warmly and even called the king his older brother, revealing he was the king's stepbrother. Jiang felt immense pride, believing she had softened the king's cruel heart and changed history itself. As the Chinese chefs prepared to leave, Tang warned, "Tell your king to stay alert and always lock the treasure well before sleeping." No one understands why he said this, leaving everyone confused. But tragedy struck. The second queen, Prince Jin's mother, arrived suddenly, slapped Jiang across the face, and accused her of poisoning her son. Prince Jin had collapsed, writhing in pain, and was near death. Mokju silently rejoiced at the success of her scheme. The furious queen ordered Jiang immediately thrown into prison. There, guards began to torture her, demanding she confess. Meanwhile, the king, blissfully unaware of the disaster, waited eagerly for Jiang in the royal garden, ready to spend the night under the moonlight with her. King waiting expectantly for Jiang in the royal garden. He practices a hug, holding chili powder in his hands, planning to gift it to her and imagining how delighted she will be. But unknown to him, Jiang is enduring brutal torture in the palace jail. Gil rushes to inform the others, insisting they must tell the king, but everyone is too afraid, remembering how the previous head chef was executed after false accusations. Furious, Gil condemns them for being cowards and declares she will go alone. Minsu stops her, agreeing to accompany her, and eventually the rest join. They inform the head, who immediately tells the king. The king runs to the jail, but the guards refuse to open the gate, saying the queen holds the only key. Enraged, the king shouts for the doors to be broken down. At that moment, the queen arrives, declaring that since her son is dying from Jiang's cooking, Jiang must face the death penalty. The king counters, pointing out that he ate the same food and is unharmed. Suspicious of the king's closeness to Prince Jin, the queen accuses him of using Jiang to poison the prince in order to seize the throne. The king draws his sword against her, but Jiang begs him to stop, warning that such an act will make him a tyrant. Instead, she pleads with him to prove her innocence. The king promises her he will. The queen warns that if her son dies, Jiang will be executed. The king assures Jiang he will protect her. Meanwhile, a minister whispers to the queen mother, Dadi, that the king may be seeking revenge for his own mother's death by trying to kill Prince Jin. Dadi refuses to believe such an accusation, insisting her grandson would not kill a child. Elsewhere, Jason celebrates his successful plot with his men, though they worry about the king's unpredictable anger. Jason believes this chaos could be their chance to overthrow him. At the same time, the king orders an investigation into everything Prince Jin ate. All the chefs confirm they ate the same dishes and suffered no ill effects. The ingredients are checked and found normal. The king visits the critically ill Prince Jin and notices strange herbal medicines in the room. The doctor explains that Jason had sent them for the boy's health. The king orders all the medicine collected for testing. Trying to reassure him, the head reminds the worried king that Jiang is used to hardship and will endure. Grandmother later visits Jiang in her cell, asking directly if the king ordered the poisoning. Jiang firmly denies it. Grandmother hands her a knife and an ultimatum: prove her innocence within 3 days or take her own life to avoid a shameful public execution. Grandmother sets her free. Jiang returns to the kitchen and notices the king's lunch untouched. She calls out to him, and when he appears, he pulls her into a room, hugs her tightly, and kisses her. He confesses his feelings for her. Jiang shows him the knife and explains the 3-day ultimatum. Furious, the king snatches the blade and swears he will not allow her to die. From then on, Jiang and the king investigate the case together. They work tirelessly, eventually falling asleep side by side. Jiang brings the suspicious medicines back with her. When Gil smells them, she realizes the prince's sickness came not from the food, but from the medicine. Soon after, the king himself falls ill with the same symptoms as Prince Jin. The doctor confirms he had tasted the medicine, proving it to be the poison. He explains the medicine becomes lethal only when consumed after ginseng soup. The king demands an antidote and orders his guards to find whoever tampered with the medicine. The chief uncovers the involvement of the female doctor working under Mokju's control, but she has fled. The king assigns Gongil to the investigation. Mokju's maid rushes to inform her that the doctor has been exposed, and Mokju coldly orders the doctor's death. Gongil intercepts the maid, leading to a violent fight. During the struggle, the maid reveals she was the one who killed Gongil's sister. Enraged, Gongul defeats her and then interrogates the fleeing doctor. The doctor admits Mokju ordered the poisoning, but before revealing her accomplice, Jason's assassin kills her and escapes. Finally, another doctor manages to create an antidote. The king rushes it to Prince Jin, but the boy vomits it up on his empty stomach. Zhang quickly prepares a small meal. The suspicious queen demands Zhang eat it first, which she does. Only then does Prince Jin eat, and he begins to recover. That night, Mokju visits her maid in prison. The maid promises loyalty, but Mokju silences her permanently, stabbing her in the throat to protect her secret. As grandmother's 70th birthday approaches, the king prepares a special dance in a dancer's dress, performing it privately for Zhang. Meanwhile, Jason secretly visits the king's maternal grandmother, who is still alive and seen holding a doll, hinting at a much larger plot to come. Later, the king asks Zhang if she would truly leave him for the future if she found her book. He admits he has deliberately avoided looking for it because he cannot bear the thought of losing her. Pulling her close, he slips a ring onto her finger, kisses her, and asks softly, "Will you marry me?" The king had just kissed Zhang and proposed marriage. Zhang backed away and refused, saying, "I can't." The king asked if she didn't like him. Zhang explained that she wasn't from this world and must return to her family and future. The king asked if she would ever return to visit. Zhang said she might not be able to, even if she wanted to. The king insisted that he would come to her. Zhang promised she would return, as she now had feelings for him. But she made him swear never to attack or kill anyone again. The king promised. Later, the king sat down to write about a dish Zhang had once made, but he couldn't remember its name. He called the head and asked what Zhang's very first dish for him had been called, saying he wanted to name a dish after her when she left. The head replied that it had been called homecoming. Meanwhile, Zhang was torn between leaving and staying, her thoughts filled with the king. Gil asked if she had found her missing book. Zhang said no, then asked if Gil would come with her when she returned to her world. Gil hesitated, reminding her that Jiang now had a life in the kitchen and friends she had grown close to. Gil said she would think about it. That night, they both wished upon a shooting star. The next day brought the grandmother's birthday. The palace bustled with preparations, especially for the non-meat dish Zhang suggested, made from soybeans that could taste like meat. Prince Jin, now recovered, came to give his blessings. Mokju forced her way into the event, but the queen scolded her harshly. Mokju denied everything. The grandmother silenced her, saying the truth would eventually come out, and ordered her confined to her room except for the celebration. Jason had already planted his loyal men among the palace guards. When he came to greet the grandmother, she ordered him to resign for stealing the chili powder. Jason pretended to agree. As the king prepared for his performance, news reached him that Mokju's maid had taken her own life. The king knew Mokju had killed her, but ordered the matter kept quiet. In the kitchen, a bag of chocolate Zhang had prepared as a farewell gift for the king accidentally fell to the ground. The grandmother entered the hall, though the king himself was absent. When she tasted Zhang's soybean dish, she thought it was real meat. Mokju tried to humiliate Zhang, but the queen defended her. Then came the performances. The chief announced the king's dance, and Zhang smiled brightly as he appeared and performed. Soon after, a man named Sun, whose family Jason had kidnapped, entered with documents. He revealed shocking news. The king's mother had been poisoned. The king's maternal grandmother, who had been in hiding, appeared as well. The king asked, "Who am I?" The maternal grandmother replied, "I don't know," then fell at his feet, begging for forgiveness. She cried, "My daughter is innocent. Please let her go." The king asked again, "Don't you remember me?" She answered, "You are the king of this place," before bursting into laughter, clearly in a poor mental state. The king began to cry. The grandmother, Dadi, rose and tried to leave, but the king shouted for everyone to stop. He commanded that no one move. As the grandmother tried to run, the king blocked her, and the chief was forced to continue reading the letter. It revealed that Mokju and several other concubines had written to accuse the queen, the king's late mother, of being jealous of them, overweight, ugly, and unfit to be queen. The king glared at the concubines, who, terrified that he might kill them, fled after the grandmother. The chief read further. The queen had once scratched the king's face, and together, the minister and others had used this to remove her from her position. The king turned his furious gaze on the minister. "How dare you do this?" he demanded. The minister dropped to his knees, pleading, "I'm sorry. Please stop. Don't be angry." But the letter continued, exposing that the grandmother herself had granted permission to poison and kill the queen. At that, the king lost control. He roared in fury, drew his sword, and charged at the grandmother to kill her. Zhang rushed in and stopped him. "What are you doing? Don't kill her," she cried. But the king shouted back, "Why are you stopping me? I know the truth now. The grandmother ordered my mother's death." At that moment, the minister blurted out that the emperor, the king's father, had ordered Sun to hide the secret. The truth hit like lightning. His own father had been involved in killing his wife. The king trembled with rage. "Everyone here is a traitor. Everyone will answer for this today," he shouted. Zhang sobbed as she threw herself between him and his enemies. "Remember your promise. You swore never to kill anyone with your own hands," she reminded him. Around them, people begged for mercy. "Yes, please, don't kill anyone," they cried. The king paused, then gave a terrifying command. "Seal every exit. No one leaves. Everyone responsible for my mother's death will die here tonight." In desperation, Zhang pressed the chocolate she had made into the maternal grandmother's hands, hoping it might calm her. The king raised his sword again, ready to slit the grandmother's throat, but suddenly the maternal grandmother's voice grew steady. She said clearly, "As my daughter lay dying, she told me that even if her son could not avenge her, he would grow into a great king who would be remembered for centuries." Zhang seized the moment. "Your mother would never want you to become like this. She would never want you to kill everyone you tried," she told him. Trembling, the king lowered his sword and collapsed, cursing his father. "You killed my mother and abandoned me," he screamed. Meanwhile, Mokju and Jason seethed in frustration. Their plan had failed. The king had not killed anyone and had not gone mad. Alone, the king wandered to the tree where he had once played with his mother. He wept bitterly, saying his own family had murdered her and that he wanted revenge on them all. Zhang followed him and pleaded softly, "What will you do after that? Do you think your mother would want this?" "I understand you. I truly do." Elsewhere, Jason and his men raged. "Who stopped the king?" they demanded. The answer was clear, Jiang. She had destroyed their chance for bloodshed. Jason swore she would die that very night. The chief's father overheard their plotting and realized Jason was behind everything. He tried to flee, but was caught and dragged away. The minister, though relieved to have survived, still distrusted the king and quietly began his own schemes to eliminate him. The grandmother and the concubines lived in terror. Zhang told the king that someone had staged the entire event to reveal the truth and push him toward slaughter. The king confessed that he thought only of his mother's revenge. "What should I do now?" he asked. Zhang urged him, "Sit with your grandmother, eat with her, ask her what really happened." The king resisted, but at Zhang's insistence, he agreed. Just then, Zhang remembered Tang, the Chinese chef's warning before he left, to tell the king to lock his doors well when sleeping. The king didn't understand it. Was it a riddle? But Zhang now realized it meant not to trust his own people. She hurried to the kitchen, preparing food for the grandmother and arranging for it to be delivered to her chambers. The servants were shocked. Meanwhile, the chief's father passed Jason's quarters and overheard him plotting with his men. They planned to send a false message to lure the king into the forest and kill him there to seize the throne. Horrified, the chief's father tried to escape but was caught and murdered by Jason's men. Soon after, Jason sent thugs to kill Zhang. Gongil overheard and raced to her aid. He found her unconscious, saved her, and carried her to safety. As the king made his way toward the grandmother's chambers, a bodyguard approached with a false note. It claimed the chief had reported intruders attacking in the forest and commanded the king to ride out immediately. Then Jason's minion appeared, claiming Zhang had been kidnapped and taken to the forest. Furious, the king abandoned his plan to meet the grandmother and rushed into the trap. Back in the palace, Mokju smiled darkly. "Someone special is arriving," she said. A man entered the grandmother's room wearing the king's mask. "Jason," the grandmother sobbed, "I was wrong to trust you." Jason sneered. "This is the new beginning for Joseon," and stabbed her, killing her. He then cut down the female guards outside and ordered his men to wear red armbands to identify themselves as they began a palace-wide massacre. In the forest, the king arrived and found the chief. The chief shouted for him to run. It was all a trap. Suddenly, arrows whistled through the air. The chief leapt in front of the king, shielding him, and fell under a hail of arrows. The king cried out in grief as his most loyal man died protecting him. Elsewhere, Gongil shook Zhang awake and urged her to run. "Don't trust any soldier wearing a red armband," he warned. Zhang ran as fast as she could, but was soon surrounded by Jason's guards. Fear gripped her as she thought of the king. In the forest, the king fought desperately, slashing through enemies in a battle for his life as chaos consumed the palace. Before we move on to the last part, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video. And let me tell you one important thing. Jason is actually the king's uncle, because Jason's brother was the king's father. And that's why Jason always wanted to be king himself. The final part of the story begins right where we left off. Zhang had been captured, but Gongil and his group managed to rescue her once again. Zhang, confused and frightened, asked what was happening. Gongil explained everything. "This is all Jason's doing. He has started a rebellion, killing everyone in his path. He will kill you too if we don't protect you. Zhang wanted to go to the king, but Gongul insisted, if you stay safe, then the king will also remain safe. Don't go to him right now. Meanwhile, the minister heard about the grandmother's death and went to see her, but Jason intercepted him on the way and killed him. Jason then went to the queen. The queen was terrified. Jason told her, the king has gone mad. He killed his grandmother, the entire royal family, and everyone else. With the help of my soldiers, I attacked him, and he ran away into the forest. But soon he will come to kill Prince Jin. We need a new king. Prince Jin should sit on the throne. The queen protested, no, as long as the king is alive, how can my son take the throne? What if he returned? Jason insisted, he will never return. Tomorrow morning, Prince Jin will be crowned king. In the forest, bodies lay everywhere, no one alive. From beneath the pile of corpses, the bodyguard pulled out the king, who was barely alive and unconscious. The next day, the coronation of Prince Jin was prepared. Word spread like wildfire across the kingdom that the king had gone mad, killed his entire family, and then died while hunting in the forest. Soon, Prince Jin was declared the new king. Jason's men, however, whispered that Jason himself should be crowned king. Jason told them, be patient. In a few days, I will be king. Mokju asked about the king, but the soldiers confirmed only dead bodies were found in the forest, meaning the king was indeed dead. She then asked about Jiang. Jason replied, she escaped. But don't worry, we will find her and kill her. Jiang, now with Gongil, heard the shocking news spreading everywhere that the king had killed his grandmother and family. She couldn't believe it. How could he? He was ready to speak with her. How could he kill them all? But with so many dead bodies in the forest, it was impossible to confirm whether the king was alive. Jiang gave Gongil the hairpin that the king had once gifted her and said, I don't know what use this has, but give it to him if you see him. He will understand. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, everyone was worried about Jiang. Gil suspected she had returned to the future without telling them. She explained that Jiang had indeed come from the future, but no one believed her. Just then, Gongil entered, cutting the scene short. That night, Jason's guards discussed finishing the king off within 3 days. But Jason told them, no need. He's no longer king, no longer has any power. His life means nothing now. Suddenly, another soldier rushed in, warning that the royal guards had attacked. They ran out to see the king had returned, heavily wounded but alive. Seeing Mokju, the king said bitterly, I wished you wouldn't betray me, but out of jealousy of Jiang, you did all this. Mokju smirked and replied, I've waited for this day for so long. The king laughed and turned to Jason. Let us drink one last time. They sat and drank, Jason mocking him. The people now hate you. You should die quietly. I killed your grandmother and family, the same ones who killed your mother. You should thank me because wasn't that your wish too? The king replied, no, that was never what I wanted. Jason, still full of rage, threw the king into prison and declared he would be executed the next day. The king asked for his book and there he wrote once again. On one page, he wrote if you are reading this, please come to me. This was the same magical book Jiang had read in the very beginning. It became clear the book had always been written by the king himself. Later, Gongil secretly dropped the hairpin into the king's cell. Seeing it, the king realized Jiang was alive. At the same time, Jiang confessed to Gongil, the king will be executed tomorrow. I know because I came from the future. Tomorrow is his last day. The next morning, soldiers dragged the king into the forest for execution. Jiang secretly followed. The king begged her to leave, but Jiang swore, I promise to save you and I have a plan. As the executioners raised their swords, the loyal guards attacked and saved the king. The king said, Jason will soon come himself to see my body. And indeed, Jason arrived with a massive army. He laughed, such a small army, this will be easy. But suddenly, Jiang, Gongil, and even the kitchen staff arrived, standing bravely with the king. Jason mocked, you fools, go cook food instead. But the battle began. Jason's army outnumbered them, and the king's side began to falter. Then, an explosion shook the ground. Chun appeared with bombs, shouting, am I late? Jiang smiled, no, we called you just in time. The battle turned fierce. The king fired arrows at Jason, but Jason hid behind his men. One by one, Jason's soldiers were killed. In desperation, Jason kidnapped Jiang and shouted, come alone, or she dies. The king ordered Gongil and the bodyguard to take the palace back while he went to rescue Jiang. Inside the palace, Gongil and the loyalists slaughtered Jason's corrupt allies one by one. The scheming old ministers died in terror, some even drinking poison to escape painful deaths. Gongil entered Mokju's chamber. She tried to stab herself with Jiang's hairpin, but Gongil thrust his sword into her, declaring, this is for my sister. Mokju fell dead. Meanwhile, the king reached Jason. They fought brutally. During the struggle, the magical book slipped from the king's robes. Jiang managed to free herself and grabbed the book. Shocked, she realized it was the king who had written it, and inside was the missing page from episode 1. Jason's entire army was cut down, but one soldier struck the king's leg, leaving him badly wounded. As Jason raised his blade for the final strike, Jong leapt in front of him, taking the blow on her back. The king, enraged, killed Jason with his sword. Holding the dying Jong, the king wept, "Don't leave me!" Suddenly, the book began to glow. The moon turned red, and its pages scattered into the air. Jong's body began to shine, and the missing page floated out. In that moment, Jong vanished along with the book. The king screamed, "I will find you, wherever you are!" But Jason, barely alive, rose again to stab him. The king struck the final blow, ending Jason's life forever. The scene shifted to a modern hospital. Jong opened her eyes. She was back in her own time, her body covered with bandages. The wound she had taken from Jason remained. It was real. The book lay beside her. Her father rushed in, crying with joy to see her alive. Yet Jong's heart ached. She missed the king terribly. Reading history online, she discovered that the king had mysteriously disappeared from records. His body was never found. Jong realized history had changed. The king was not dead, he had crossed into her time. 1 month later, Jong had healed. Though she tried to move on, she still thought of him. She accepted a temporary job at a struggling restaurant. Smiling, she said, "What a boring menu. It should be a royal menu." Soon, her unique fusion of royal and modern cuisine brought fame to the restaurant. One day, the manager introduced her to the cooking staff, and to her surprise, they all looked exactly like the same palace staff from her past life, including Gil. She was overjoyed, but soon realized they were not the same people. These were their later generations. Still, she felt happy and decided to work with them. One day, a wealthy man named Steve came to taste her food. Without even eating, he rejected it. Jong angrily confronted him, but then froze. It was the chief's look-alike. Steve insulted her cooking harshly. Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed from behind, "How dare you speak like this?" Jong turned in shock. It was the king. He stood there, alive, looking exactly as he did in the past. Tears filled her eyes. "King, is it really you?" He smiled. "I told you I would find you." They embraced and kissed as the kitchen staff cheered. The mystery was solved. This was why history recorded the king as missing. He hadn't died. The missing page of the magical book had carried him into the future. The king and Jeong reunited in her world, living together, still bickering and laughing like before. The king still acted every bit like a royal, and Jeong teased him. "Come on, stop acting like a king now." He laughed and replied, "I promised you I'd come, and I always keep my promises." The story concludes with their happy ending. Now I want to hear from you. Which character did you like the most in this drama and why? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel for more unique drama stories. Saranghayo, 여러분.